How can you make sure to survive the recession in 2020? So what I experience and what I see that now with the global lockdown, the economy will suffer horribly. That's a fact. But what does that mean for your business and for the global economy? I'm sure that it will recover in 2 years or 3 years, but I'm also pretty sure it will go down in the next month. So the most important thing that I experienced, what organizations need to become more flexible for the future when there is an ever increasing change every year, is simply more flexibility. Sounds easy, but it's so hard for most organizations to implement flexibility. Why is that? Most organizations, they have employed and deployed a classical hierarchical leadership system, which is built on delegation, which is built on command and control. That assumes that there is one manager that understands the economy, the goals, and has an overview of everything in the company and understands exactly what others need to do. Only with this assumption, the manager can command other people and tell them what to do. That's not flexible and that's not fast, because you always have a chain of command from the top to the person that does the work, and that's pretty slow. And that prevents the organization from changing fast. What organizations need is more flexibility, and they need to be able to adjust their plans, they need to be able to adjust their next steps, and they need to be able to implement and react fast changes often. That requires an agile approach instead of a hierarchical approach. So what you can do in 2020 is to invest in more flexibility. For example, investing in coaching instead of deploying and implementing new traditional leadership systems. Help people to get clarity about your KPIs of the organization, about your goals of the organization, so that they can understand what exactly they need to deliver to move forward towards the organization's goal, instead of telling them what to do so that they only understand what they have to do. Having an agile leadership system in your organization also means that you have a flat structure instead of a hierarchical structure, and this flat structure supports people instead of telling them what to do. That requires digital tools that provide transparency over progress and over goals, and it requires leaders instead of managers that ask people to help them becoming aware of what matters most and what they should do to make their team and the whole organization move forward towards the goal that you set. Flexibility is key in the future. You saw that all of a sudden everyone had to work remotely. That shows in the best possible scenario that on the one side, it's possible. You experience that change is possible fast. You can do that if pressure is high enough. What you want in your organization is not always huge pressure to be able to change and adapt. Instead, you want a company and organization changes consistently. That means you cannot assume that you have a 5-year business plan. You can't even assume that you have a 6-month business plan, because things can change from one day to another, and then you need to be able to adapt. And your plan should only consist of a clearly specified goal, and then help people to understand what they need to do. They need to choose what they need to do to deliver the outcome that contributes to the defined goal. And that's a different approach from the classical management style where you tell people what exactly they have to do. In an agile approach where you want to have more flexibility and allow people to think and decide by themselves, it is critical that they understand the impact of their decisions, and that requires transparency. That is the next thing that you can do during the crisis in 2020. You can invest into building a leadership system and building a culture that values and provides transparency and clarity for people, so that with a coaching approach, everyone in the organization can understand what exactly they have to do to cope with change. And from my experience, that is a very, very big change, because it is very, very different from how I was used to lead or manage people. But it pays off in even a short term if you let people do and let people decide by themselves, but only it will be successful if you provide them with transparency. The next thing is, if you want to have more flexibility, invest not only in flexibility of your leadership system, but also in flexibility of the tools that provide you and guide you with clarity and with transparency over your work progress. Having cloud tools in place, for example, is, from my experience, a good invest, because it allows you to scale. Whenever you need more people, new users in your tools, you can just pay by the number of users that you currently have, and you don't have to buy licenses that cost you a lot of money and mean a huge upfront invest for you and your organization. So these tools can help your team to collaborate globally. And here's the next thing, which is a huge opportunity of the crisis in 2020. When you have implemented a digital leadership system, you can also leverage global knowledge and implement a leadership system that allows freelancers to make your organization scale. Freelancers are a workforce, a global workforce that is growing every year. And freelancers can help you to complement skills that you don't have in your organization. So that helps you to build a strong core, your internal core of your employees that build a stable part of your organization. And you can deploy freelancer teams that collaborate with your digital leadership system and allow your organization to scale huge workloads. And once the huge workload disappears, you can reduce your workforce simply with freelancers. That is a huge benefit that will provide your organization with much more flexibility than you could ever imagine. If you are interested in how virtual teams and virtual organizations with freelancers can work and how you can implement the digital leadership system, simply subscribe to the Flash Hub YouTube channel, and I will post weekly videos that help you to understand how to do that, and will show you success stories of what virtual teams accomplished.